Evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news. We are broadcasting live and of course available on demand. We are available on all smart televisions including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, August 29th, 2022, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. We have so many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Well, I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television, news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Faye's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ+ morning show Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern online, and of course your smart television. Good evening, Faye.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. And if you missed the FayWhat show this morning, you missed the beautiful Miss Angel Flores that was on the show from Queer Eye. You guys watched the last season of Queer Eye. She made us all cry. Oh my God, her and her father. Anyway, if you missed it, make sure that you go back and watch it on demand. And second, I have to say thank you to all the folks that were out there on Saturday for Julian's Reverse Quinceañera. It was just a phenomenal event, 400 people strong. Congratulations to all the houses that participated, the House of Wham, the House of Flock, the House of Pub, the House of Royal Peacock, the House of Imperial Sun Court, and congratulations to the House of Flock for winning the $5,000 award for your organization. Good job. Yeah. It was a wonderful time. Thank you to Julian and the whole crew out there. You guys made me feel so welcomed. All right, so let's welcome anchor Francia. Yeah, look at him, adorable. Francia is an Afro-Venezuelan recording artist, singer-songwriter, dancer, lawyer, and yoga. What the hell? What don't you do? You clean houses in your spare time? My Lord. All right. He is also a yoga practitioner. His first album, Infinita, is streaming on all music platforms and is a genre-fluid melange of Latin rhythms. Before finding his artistic vocation, Francia practiced corporate law in New York City and was a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Welcome, Francia.
Thank you so much for that lovely intro. And if you want to catch me on social media, you can catch me at Francia Canta on Instagram, TikTok, all the goodies. And now let's welcome anchor chef Josie. She's the Bravo TV top chef and the master of the popular champagne and oyster celebration restaurant Bubbles and Pearls on the heart of the famous Wilton Drive. She's also known by her alter ego, DJ Lady Snack Daddy. Welcome, Chef Josie.
So great to be here. I always love joining this table. And Francia, so nice to meet you. You could have called me Josie. It works all the time.
And Josie, I'm loving your harness, Mama. Your hair is everything. Look at you, sexy beast.
Lady Snack Daddy in full effect. Yeah. You guys can follow me at Chef Josie for all the recipes and fun things that I'm doing in my life. Just go ahead and connect with me there, or catch me in the kitchen at Bubbles and Pearls here in Wilton Manors. So let's next welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column called Screensaver can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening. Thank you for that lovely intro. And happy National Lemon Juice Day, y'all.
Lemon juice.
Pucker up.
Lemon juice.
We are the reporters
Not lemonade, but lemon juice.
for Queer News Tonight, seriously. And this evening, we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Monday, August 29th, 2022.
Well, let's begin by queering up the road to Stonewall. California's straight pride is rocked by violence between Proud Boys and LGBTQ+. Protesters from the National Straight Pride Coalition organized a straight pride event over the weekend that ended in violence outside a Planned Parenthood in Modesto, California. Police had to intervene to stop the clashes between the Proud Boys and anti-LGBTQ and anti-abortion far-right groups behind the Proud Boys are the group that was behind the Capitol riots, and the LGBTQ+ counter-protesters. They called the gathering an unlawful assembly and asked both groups to disperse after they started to throw objects, including a firecracker that ignited a bush. Police wore tactical riot gear and eventually chose to use pepper ball guns to clear out the area. Officers then aggressively pushed the LGBTQ+ activists back to Planned Parenthood's parking area while the police moved the straight pride attendees to Wendy's parking lot nearby behind the police line. The straight pride group had around 30 people while hundreds of counter-protesters came together to voice their dissent against them, thus outnumbering the straight pride protesters. The Central California LGBT Coalition called out the homophobic event on Facebook, saying it was a flagrant disregard and a bastardization of the LGBTQ+ pride celebrations everywhere across the country. One counter-protester told the Modesto Bee, quote, "We have 2 armies to go up against when we stand up for our rights. We have to deal with the cops attacking us, and we're about to get a second wave of right-wing extremists. We're fearful of them attacking us as well," end quote. The police arrested 3 people and detained 4. And of course the issue here is it's a political stunt to call it straight pride. So Proud Boys knew exactly what they were doing. As far as I know, this is the first time where violence is actually broken out, because they've done this in Modesto for, I think this is the 3rd time that they've done it.
Fourth
time, but the first time where we have seen violence and a reflection of where we are in the country, I think, today.
Have you ever been to Modesto? It's a very ugly, sad place, okay? And this explains why something like this would happen. You know, I mean, this is the 4th time that it happened, like we just said. And, you know, the police did nothing to help. They just sprayed pepper bullets at LGBTQ+ folks, not at the other folks. So, I mean, nobody got arrested, but I mean, straight pride, really? Isn't life straight? Like, why would you need a straight pride? That right there is just basically just going, screw you, LGBTQ folks. And doing it without a permit or anything. What did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah, well, Proud Boys did that about America, too, on January 6th.
Yes,
So it's the same strategy.
Yeah, but you know what? Look, guys, this is what it comes down to, all right? We really have to start stepping into a place of acceptance, and acceptance for they're crazy. They want to accept us for who we are. We have to accept them for exactly who they are. And if they want to have a parade, I don't need to even attend. Just like they protest our parades, okay, let's protest their parades. And I mean, there are laws, right? There are laws. And right now we're seeing that around the country, the sentiment towards LGBTQ is not, in a favorable setting, right? A favorable way, light. And so we must be prepared. If we're going to protest, we need to be smart about how we're going to do this so that we're backed legally, so we can go to the highest court and we can fight. But we can't just go and let our emotions fly and jump out out there and just jump in front of these crazy people and throw things at people like the Proud Boys, who clearly are terrorists, okay? And they'll attack our own capital. So who's to say they won't hurt us?
Well, and the thing is that we aren't terrorists. We are the opposite of terrorists. We're a peaceful, loving people, as Holly Near used to sing. And these people are not, so if we respected them, that's one thing, but they just want us gone. Yeah. Like we could all just get along if we just accepted the fact that we would all be here at the same time. We could all coexist, but
like they don't want us.
They don't want to coexist.
They don't want us to breathe.
I don't want to get along with them. I just simply don't want to give them any of my energy.
Yes. To your point about not being reactive, but instead being proactive, I think we have elections coming up. That's where we can go to actually voice our needs and not responding to Proud Boys. Let's focus our.
Yeah, and we just had midterm elections, and most of our community didn't even come out to vote.
Yeah, very small number actually in terms of the turnout. I'm curious because I'm a little surprised at the table of the reaction of this event at Straight Pride. Mostly because I would say it, and then there would be a lot of people in social media that come after me for it. But in general, am I summarizing your observations that you don't think the LGBTQ protesters should have responded this way?
I think putting ourselves in harm's way, it's not doing us any favor. I think we must acknowledge that these people are dangerous, and we can redirect our energies to find actually solutions via voting, via legislation, but that's where our energies should be focused, in my opinion.
And we're already in harm's way, and plus that comment about the fact that we're already afraid of the police. We're already afraid the police are going to come after us, and now we add these fascists. I guess I'd never thought about it that way, but yes, it's just another level of fear, another level of threat.
And the follow-up question to that is, would we have been better as LGBT activists? Let's assume that those several hundred people that they're talking about are the protesters are activists that are completely motivated. We would have been better off just completely ignoring this event. We don't care. You've got the permits, you're allowed to protest, you have your free speech, but we don't care.
And counter-protest peacefully, that's the difference.
Yeah, but my question very specifically is, let's say there were 30 people at Straight Pride. Is it possible to have 30 people at Straight Pride and us not care about it? We don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're giving them more publicity by acknowledging.
Yeah. It's because we're taking the bait. We're taking the bait.
Exactly.
And that shows that we're responding. We're not even responding. We're reacting from emotion. Yeah. And then when we're reacting from the emotion, then we're also coming from that space of fear. So imagine that we're operating from this place of fear. So we're already showing up charged. We're charged and defensive. So all it takes is one comment, which we know is going to be there, right? We already know we're going to hear, oh yeah, you fag, get out of here, go back to where you come from, whatever, all those combative type of language. But we already know that. So why are we giving them our energy? Because the real fight, like you said, is going to be during the elections right now. Yes. And we're already seeing it. We're seeing it as women. Yeah. We're seeing it as LGBTQ. We're seeing it as people of color. I mean, this is an all-out war on our civil rights and our safety as Americans. So we really have to get our emotions out of this and maybe start meditating so we can figure out how to do this,
Meditating is important, LGBTQ, all right? Next, we queer up education. Nebraska high school newspaper shut down after story on LGBTQ plus pride. Northwest Public School in Grand Island, Nebraska, has banned its award-winning newspaper, The Viking Saga. The school shut down the publication in May after the paper released an LGBTQ plus issue. In a horrendous case of dead naming, the newspaper dead named student Marcus Pinnell after school district officials insisted on students using their names and pronouns assigned to them at birth. Marcus told the Grand Island Independent, quote, "That was a big deal for me. It was the first time the school made me feel like they didn't want me there," end quote. Northwest Public Schools' censorship of LGBTQ content in their newspaper is just a part of the problem. It highlights a bigger issue where older generations are pushing outdated notions onto the children who genuinely want a platform to express themselves, share new information, and explore the world around them. Sarah Rips, legal counsel for ACLU of Nebraska, told the Grand Island Independent, quote, "Student journalism teaches students how to discern and investigate, build effective work based on verifiable facts and policies. It sounds like a ham-fisted attempt to censor students and discriminate based on disagreement with perspectives and articles featured in the student newspaper," end quote. Wow, so freedom of speech goes out the window here, right? Because the newspaper is a sanctioned group event, right, by the school. And you're just basically teaching these students, these future journalists, these future authors and writers like yourself, Greg, that they don't matter, that they don't count, that their opinions mean nothing, and that they should be silent.
And it's unbelievably sad and sickening that the school board chose to shut down the paper. Talk about the ultimate in fascist censorship. It's unbelievable. 54 years the paper had been in existence, and they couldn't.
Award-winning.
I know.
The proof of that observation for me, I always try to understand what is being hurled at LGBT by applying it to other minority and diversity communities that have faced similar struggles. So in this instance, I take this exact same situation and move that school to 1968. And the high school newspaper writes an article about the civil rights movement and talk about what is happening on black civil rights and them reporting on the atrocities that were taking place in 1968. If the school and the school board would have banned the newspaper for that, clearly, this would move into district, federal, and the Supreme Court on whether they could do that or not. It seems to me then the case is proven that this is a capricious act against LGBT because they don't want the content of conversation. And if that's the case, then we very likely are watching a legal trend here, because courts have ruled, even on student levels, in student newspapers, it's mostly had to do with college newspapers, that the reporter has a right to free speech, and that when he reports, the actual newspaper moves into gray areas of managing their communication process. And I'm sure that that's what's going to happen here. And you can't manage speech in this way because you can't manage speech. And they take it to the only way that they could manage it, by banning it.
Well, and bringing up the civil rights fight again. LGBTQ rights are civil rights, and yet we're being trampled in ways that wouldn't have happened.
You
in
might
68.
not like the let's say woke. It's not that. But let's say this woke characteristic that DeSantis has been so good at branding, as good as don't say gay on our side. This woke thing that he has been able to suggest is to say, don't use pronouns, and we're going to stop you from doing that. You can't. If I choose to say my pronoun is her, I get a right to use the pronoun her. You can't regulate my speech. Now, you can ban the newspaper to ensure that my pronoun is not written in your newspaper. But there's a very, very good chance that the ACLU is going to pick this up. It's going to be carried and carried to a judge's conclusion, and they're going to lose. The question is, how long will it take to get to that moment?
And because these are students and litigation is so expensive and it's protracted and long and lengthy and tiresome, I wonder who's going to take up the space and actually stand up for these students and say, we as adults or we as a community want this newspaper to exist.
I wish we had a lawyer at our table.
Wait,
the snappy dresser.
Did I just walk? But I also want to walk us into another story. Let's queer up the world view. Serbia has anti-LGBTQ+ parade to protest planned gay pride in Belgrade. The Serbian Orthodox Church led an anti-LGBTQ procession on Sunday against the Europride March that's slated for September 17th. The Europride March was supposed to take place in the Serbian capital of Belgrade, which is also where the anti-LGBTQ protest was held. Thousands of religious and right-wing protesters were a part of the rally. Some of the church's bishops said that the Pride event threatens family values, a sentiment shared amongst many of the protesters. One of the banners at the event read, "Save our children and family." Many of the protesters were carrying crosses as if to imply that being LGBTQ was a social curse. Others joined Sunday's march, chanting slogans in support of far-right or nationalist causes. At the same time, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said on Saturday that they would either be canceling or postponing the Europride march. He said it will happen, but in some other and happier time. The president cited reasons such as threats from far rights activists as the reason behind this cancellation. The move has been met with international criticism, with UN Representative Francois Jacob saying, quote, "It would go against Serbia's international human rights commitments," end quote. This isn't the first time a Serbian government has behaved so rashly. Governments in the past have banned pride parades, even though the decisions to do so drew criticism from human rights groups and others. But recent pride marches in the country have been more peaceful, with Copenhagen being the host in 2021. Events like this and anti-LGBTQ pride parade may destroy Serbia's chances to join the European Union, as membership requires certain demands to be met, including an improvement on the rules of law and their human rights and minority rights records. But we do have breaking news, which is that President Vučić has actually canceled the parade, which is a sad moment for Serbia, but certainly protecting and safeguarding the participants who would have been in harm's way.
Did you see all those people protesting? That was a huge parade. And if you saw some of the pictures, they scared me as an ex-Catholic, you know, because there was a lot of crosses, there was a lot of nuns, there was a lot of people like dressed in kind of that gear. And I mean, I don't know. It was just very, very scary, you know. So I understand why the president canceled the Pride event, you know, for safety of our people. I get it. It's just sad. And no, they shouldn't be part of the EU. Of course they shouldn't. No.
90% of the population of Serbia is what religion?
Serbian Orthodox.
Yes.
Yeah. And those hot Orthodox priests.
Really, that's what you got from it.
Oh my God.
That's what we're talking about,
Oh,
Greg.
please. I mean,
you woke up. Greg woke
up. Given its proximity to hateful Hungary, which is just above it, this all makes perfect sense. Yeah. That this is just, it's a trickle down. Talk about trickle down. We're seeing it in action. Yeah. That's what it is.
Now, I've been to World Pride events, and they're a magical time to celebrate. And to have the concern that right-wing groups might come might be worrisome for me. So I would rather go to a place that's more welcoming and embracing of our community.
This is disappointing, especially to me, because the church organized, which was behind this this parade, they blew a dog whistle and they knew exactly what they were doing. We are going to mimic exactly what they're going to do on September 17th, which is to have a march that becomes a parade. We're going to do the exact same thing to say why you shouldn't do it. And that's why it's interesting to me that you said this was scary to watch. They absolutely intended for it to be scary to watch.
Well, victory.
Because they're blowing a dog whistle. The other thing that I just want to broadly say, we're listening to the Serbian president very carefully. Everyone in LGBT America, in Western Europe, in the UK are listening very carefully. We'll see on the reschedule, we will see if you pursue happier times, which is one of the comments that he made. In his statement this morning on the cancellation, it wasn't that. It was, it's canceled. And that's that.
Period.
It is canceled, period. It's interesting because Serbia is going to suffer tremendously. We continue to discuss, we've done so many stories on Poland and Hungary. Hungary is being punished for their stand. Poland is in retrenchment of the way they initiated it. They initiated it before Hungary did. It has cost them millions and millions and millions of dollars of this. And it's not LGBT victory. That's not what's going on. We are the example of what the union is making of Poland and Hungary. It is their social and civil rights policies. And to be a member of the union, there is universal agreement that you agree to the civil and human rights of your citizens. There's no right-wing GOP. There's no Newsmax. There's no Fox News that says, we're going to help convince you to hate, because you can't in the union. And Poland and Hungary are suffering from this. Serbia has even more to lose because of their desire to move into the union. So you better walk carefully because it's going to have substantial effects and financial effects on you if you're not careful.
And maybe they should wake up and join that woke movement that DeSantis talks about. Right. And speaking about woke, okay, let's go to our next story, queer up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Canada's Trudeau announces $100 million plan to fight LGBTQ plus discrimination.
Since day one, our government has been committed to protecting the rights of two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and additional sexuality and gender diverse people. That's why I'm so excited today to announce a historic first, the launch of Canada's first ever 2S LGBTQI plus action plan. This is a whole of government plan that will guide our ongoing work to fight discrimination, to break down barriers, to advance rights, and to build a future where everyone in Canada is truly free to be who they are and love whom they love.
So this is exactly why 75% of the funding in this plan is going directly to community organizations, directly there. So I'm going to break it down a little more for you. 75 million for community organizations, 40 million in new capacity building support, 35 million in new project focused support, 8 million, almost 8 million for data collection. And I want to stop on the data collection and disaggregated data for a moment. That's really important because we need to know exactly what is happening. We need to know this so that we can serve well. We need to know where the gaps are, and data does this.
In a riveting announcement, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the launch of a $100 million plan to combat discrimination and increase inclusion for LGBTQ plus Canadians. He made the announcement on Sunday alongside Women and Gender Equality and Youth Minister Marcy Yen. Minister Yen said the majority of the money would go toward community organizations. $8 million would go towards data collection. Another $5.6 million would be spent on building an awareness campaign, and $11.7 million would go toward the 2S LGBTQ plus Secretariat. Some of the other topics discussed were further action on banning conversion therapy, more direct support needed for LGBTQ plus groups, and anti-discriminatory policies in the military. Canada has some of the best LGBTQ policies in the world and was even ranked first in the Gay Travel Index chart in 2021. Well, I will say it right now and co-sign that report because I just came from Canada and I was in Montreal, and oh my God, gorgeous. What a beautiful city, what a beautiful group of people. And Al, you remember we used to report and ask the question, where are all the lesbians? They're in Canada.
Really? With all this crap with DeSantis, I was thinking of moving to Spain. Maybe I'll go to Canada.
I'm telling you, I went, my first night, I landed there and I went to a party and I thought I was at Girls in Wonderland, and it was Tuesday. And I said, what is going on here? Wow. So I could see it. My friend is trans there, and I have a few different friends, and their LGBTQ support is just remarkable. And when you think about even just walking down the streets, I felt so safe. People are so accepting. Everyone is asking, what are your pronouns? It's just a very conscious state of being. And I guess you could see how it works. It trickles from the top down. Yeah. So leadership.
And can we say how hot Mr. Trudeau is? I'm sorry, I have to say, he's just such a good looking man, my Lord. And you know, when I first saw this story, what a pretty man. When I first saw the story, I was like, God, $8 million for data collection. Can't you use that for better, for something better? But no, the woman that spoke after was absolutely right. We don't have accurate data and number. We need the science. We need to know our numbers. Most of LGBTQ plus don't fill out surveys, don't do that kind of stuff because they don't see themselves in the surveys and they don't see anything good coming out for their community from those surveys and that data being collected. So it's super uber important to know our numbers and know how much we're out there. You know how they say here in the US that I think that we're like 7% of the population or something like that? That's BS. You know, we're gay. We're like roaches. We're everywhere, you know? So I think those numbers are astronomically higher and we just don't know it. To get that correct data will really help a lot of our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ plus community.
And how can a country that gave us Katie Lang and Joni Mitchell be bad? And I know that we need to be grateful for every hard-won morsel that they toss at us here in this country. But when you see something like this, it's just, you just have to wonder how long we're going to have to wait if we'll ever get this kind of thing here.
Yeah, it's difficult. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a wonderful model, not only for the types of programming that we need, but for philanthropy. And it holds philanthropy accountable for setting budgets that make sense in terms of creating programs where you can analyze them, where you can look at metrics.
Really know who needs it.
Yes, I want to applaud, you know, Prime Minister Trudeau, but also his cabinet. To see the youth minister, a woman of color, making this announcement made me so happy. And that cabinet is so rich and diverse. And that's what happens when you have a rich and diverse cabinet. You have policies like these. So we should take note of that.
You know, I've been to every province in Canada, including the Arctic.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that I always say about Canada, which is interesting because I feel that in this conversation on this news of Prime Minister Trudeau's announcement, I always call it the Canada effect, the Queer as Folk Canada effect. We loved Queer as Folk when Queer as Folk came out at the turn of the millennial. And the bar that we loved was in Pittsburgh, but no, it really wasn't.
Right. It was all shot in Toronto.
Were shot in Toronto. The bar and the street and all of the shots were in Toronto. And that's when I began to learn to have my love for Canada. Interesting thing in Canada. One of the things that we feel about what Prime Minister Trudeau has done here, we have here in America. Our Prime Minister Trudeau is President Joe Biden. Now, there's differences in age, et cetera, and so on. But Joe Biden's commitment to LGBTQ community is almost identical to Prime Minister Trudeau. But that's where the similarities end between the two countries. Canada's the top LGBT embracing destination in the world. The United States is in the mid-20s. The reason why that and everything else is because Canada does not have this fanatical, right-wing, white Christian community that in an evangelical standpoint tries to dominate the politics of America. Those are the things that have been behind the Supreme Court's decisions that money is free speech. You don't have that experience in Canada. The unlimited spending in political campaigns, you don't have that in Canada. And as a result, we begin to divert very significantly, even though they're our cousins. But their philosophy and their philosophical commitment is different than in the United States. Now, people argue that it might be easier in Canada because it's a smaller population. I have never subscribed to that being the right answer. The right answer is they don't have organizations like Tucker Carlson and Fox News. They do not have the moral majorities. They do not have a Liberty University. They do not have a Ron DeSantis. There's not a single provincial governor in Canada that sits in the Abbott-DeSantis model. And as a result, you get what you get when you have that kind of leadership. So unfortunately, we have the leadership at the top, but it is derailed because of the commitment of many and a sizable portion of American society in media, evangelical church, and uber conservative thinking philosophies like Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott. So our future of getting there has to solve those problems, and we can be Canada. And Americans get offended when we go, we're the greatest place in the world. Well, you should be LGBT, be trans, and say that. Right. Because you can't. And that's probably true for black, that's probably true for brown, that's probably true for women.
For sure.
it's across the board in how Canada treats the diversity of their society.
I feel bad about loving that song "Blame Canada" from South Park now. I used to love that jam.
It was a good song, but it's not true.
No. And now we're going to queer up politics. California governor calls DeSantis bully, then donates $100,000 to Charlie Crist campaign. California Governor Gavin Newsom called Florida Governor Ron DeSantis a bully during an interview with reporters. He then pledged $100,000 to Charlie Crist's campaign, saying that he doesn't like bullies. Newsom said, quote, "I don't like people that demean people. I don't like when people talk down to people," end quote. Newsom has criticized DeSantis on many occasions in the past. DeSantis had called for violence against chief medical advisor to the president, Dr. Anthony Fauci, for body shaming him. Newsom said of DeSantis, quote, "To call someone pejorative terms because they're short? Who the hell raised these guys? What kind of people are they? I know all of us had to sit there and suck it up and make Trump's demonization, Trump's demonization, but not everybody has to act like him."
I like Charlie Crist, and I don't like bullies. You want to ask what my why is in life? I don't like bullies. I don't like people that demean people. I don't like people that talk down to people. I didn't like what DeSantis said about Fauci that he may disagree with him, but to call someone pejorative terms because they're short, I mean, who the hell raised these guys? What kind of people are they? I mean, I know all of us had to, sit there and suck it up and take Trump's demonization, but not everybody has to act like him. I mean, literally, I remember growing up and folks would have their mouths washed out with soap if they talked like this. I got 4 kids. I don't want these guys being models. You're attacking LGBT community, you're attacking women. I mean, this guy's so extreme. You rape and incest. Ron DeSantis talks about freedom, and a young girl's raped by her father, doesn't have the right to her own body to make her own decisions. Spare me freedom. There's no freedom, there's no choice. So yeah, I'm standing up as a human being, got to use those dollars, and I hope others of you send money to send a message that if that's the future of the damn Republican Party, this country's in real trouble.
I keep dreaming about the 2024 presidential election when Democrat Newsom beats Republican DeSantis. I mean, it's a dream, but it'd be nice if that was the ticket.
Oh, I love Gavin Newsom. He's just, I mean, aside from being beautifully handsome, I lived in San Francisco when he was the mayor of San Francisco, which is like, the most progressive city ever, more LGBT and very LGBTQ plus friendly. But he just said all the things that we thought of. We were all like, he's just saying like human things. Like, hey, this guy's a bully. I've never met someone like this. Like, it's all the things that we've said, except he's putting his money where his mouth is, which is fantastic. 100 G's will come in handy to Charlie Crist and try to get him where we need him, beating Ron DeSantis.
Yes.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. I think that it's probably a really smart path for politicians these days to start being human. Okay, because what's not working is those scripted sound bites, and who wants to hear that anymore? I mean, he right there, like you said, he was speaking as a father of 4 and recognizing his place and his position and his platform, and that's really out there in the world right now. We really need to send that invitation to our community, the LGBTQ community, and just like tap into your human and vote your conscience.
And Newsom's also been really coming after DeSantis in Florida. He had that whole ad campaign where he's trying to encourage LGBTQ plus people to move to California, which is a great invitation, except California is kind of cost prohibitive and it's on fire and our earthquakes.
We're not too far away when it comes to cost prohibitive these days, Greg. So
it's true.
And we have DeSantis. I'm sorry. I'll go have I'll get a hide hustle real quick and go move to California and have someone like Gavin at the helm. I'm sorry.
And the overall message that I'm getting from this is we're not free until we're all free. So this is someone saying if you're not free in Florida, we're not free in California either.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful for all of us to understand that.
It's a good message. You're only as strong as your weakest link. That's what he says over and over again. I disagree on Gavin Newsom slightly. I'm not completely sold on him. I disagree with a number of things that he has done in California, but I'm a bit more conservative bent for LGBT. But one thing that I do admire in this statement is I have a pretty good bullshit detector. And when he is talking, nothing goes off going.
You believe him, right?
This is inauthentic. It sounds so real and authentic. And for the governor of California to donate $100,000 to Charlie Crist's campaign just does the walk. He walks it. The one other thing that I would say, and I'm going to probably say this 10,000 times, DeSantis is going to run for president one day, and we're going to need somebody really uber. We're going to need Superman or Superwoman, probably Superwoman, by the way, to run against him when he does. But let's hope it's not in 24, because I don't think we're ready. Who we need to be running for president of the United States for the GOP is Donald J. Trump. That's our best path. Donald, please, we need you. Run for president of the United States.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
My name is Jasmine Price Lords, Florida Mother of the House of Lords, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, now we finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up the USA view. From LGBTQ news partner, advocate, and writers Rosa Flores and Rosalina Nieves. LGBTQ plus migrants facing deadly border crossing. So many migrants, including children who have attempted to cross the U.S. southern border, have died in this region that the forensic pathologist serving the area says that 2022 is on pace to become the deadliest year on record in recent memory. In the past year, migrants CNNs have interviewed along the U.S.-Mexico border have pointed to violence, climate change, and economic downturns in their home countries as the factors driving their dangerous journeys to America. A 20-year-old Nicaraguan national who crossed into Maverick County this week and was waiting for Border Patrol agents to pick him up when CNN talked to him also pointed to equal rights for the LGBTQ plus community as reasons migrants want to come here. Get more on this story at advocate.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up the road to Stonewall. From LGBTQ plus news partner, LGBTQ Nation. LGBTQ Nation launches Authentic Voices of Pride, focusing on the stories about small-town life. While large cities in blue states like New York and San Francisco are well known for their LGBTQ inclusivity, accepting environments can now be found across the country, even in some unexpected places. LGBTQ Nation and Chevrolet have partnered to bring the stories of people living in these rural areas to light. Find out more at lgbtqnation.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up the worldview. From LGBTQ plus news partner Pink News and writer Josh Milton. Manchester Pride sees simple gesture from 7-year-old girl that humbles LGBTQ plus community. For the first time in 3 years, thousands of people poured into the northwestern city of Manchester on Saturday in a dazzling celebration of diversity and love. And it seems one young girl was getting into the spirit by handing out adorable envelopes to out and proud Pride goers. Singer Jack Remington shared on Twitter photos of a small polka dot envelope taped shut with a heart-shaped rainbow sticker. Inside, the message read, quote, "You make me feel so proud. Happy Pride Day," end quote. Get more on this wonderful story at pinknews.co.uk.
Manchester Pride about to walk with George House Trust for a world where HIV holds no one back, and a little, I'm going to say no more than 7-year-old girl just came up to me and went, "Can I give you this?" I went, yeah, of course. Opened it. I've got shivers now. It says, "You make me so proud. Happy Pride Day." I'm in bits. Happy Pride. There's a donation link to George House Trust in my bio.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up South Florida. From our partner, LGBTQ plus news partner Queerty, and writer Graham Greenmore. Mary Trump weighs in on Mar-a-Lago affidavit release. The U.S. Justice Department just released a redacted version of the FBI affidavit used to justify the August 8th search of the Mar-a-Lago, and wow! The release of the affidavit was approved by the U.S. magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart, who said it could be unsealed after the DOJ submitted its proposed redactions. Reinhart, a Trump appointee, also approved the warrant that initially allowed FBI agents to search Trump's Florida property in the first place. Shortly after the affidavit was released, Mary Trump appeared to call for her crazy uncle to finally be indicted, tweeting, quote, "This should be enough, yes?" End quote. See more responses at Queerty.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the worldview. From LGBTQ plus news partner Washington Blade and writer Michael K. Lavers. Director of Ghana LGBTQ plus rights group is kidnapped, held for ransom. An LGBTQ and intersex rights group in Ghana on Saturday said a group of men kidnapped its director and held him for ransom before they released him. Rightify Ghana, in a series of tweets, said a group of 7 homophobic men in the country's Ashanti region on August 20th held its director hostage. In a tweet, they said, quote, "He was beaten and threatened with a knife by the men who demanded for a ransom to be paid before releasing him," end quote. Find out more information on this at WashingtonBlade.com. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, Francia, Chef Josie, and Gregg Shapiro. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
Good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBT